when I said that everything is existing in an interplay of different orbits of linkage networks of so many variants here and there, interconnected network by the intentionality of the variants involved, okay? Every variant getting connected with the minimum 3 other linkages and see the network. But this is a general statement. Howsoever, every linkage of every variant is determined by a certain logic. Then only that intentionality, then only that intent will work. Look at musical notations. Entire universe of music is made out of the basic subvariants of what? Do re mi ya. Correct. What is that? Do re mi
Do
ya.
re mi fa sol la ti do.
Exactly. Yeah. Same as re ga ma pa da ni sa. That's the basic ingredients. Basic. Let us say they are the invariant sounds available. That invariant is based on the invariant potentiality of the human vocal system. Why only the 7? Because the human being can make only those 7 variations of sound. So that is why. Each sound is generated from the invariant of each sound is actually originating from 7 different parts of the central nervous system. Actually, the central system. And there are names for that. I don't know the names and all that. Anyway, the upper sa, it comes from the top. The basic sa. From the bottom, sa, re. So any musical piece is a different setting or arrangement, like you read out. A different setting, that's the best word, which we notes arrangement of sounds with a certain logic. If without that logic, you cannot enjoy even, let us say, even normal song. You'll say pitch out. You see, you understand the logic? If you choose a certain sound, sa, dha, pa, ma, or 3 sounds or 3 swarasthanas, you cannot vary that. It's very difficult for people, a singer to consciously sing out of pitch. But if you press the keys of a piano or a musical instrument, you will know that. Now, listen to a song and see how each of the words are linked at a different sound positions or called pitch. Tamarapuni. Oh, that is not much variation.
The song like Lag Ja Gale Ek Phir Gaye. That song is a very, I don't know how much variations it has got in that song.
Yeah, every song, yeah, that depends upon the basic variants they have chosen.
Hmm.
And mostly on the harmonium or a piano. Okay. Otherwise, it would look like jagale la 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 la. You know, in normal talking, there is only 1 or 2, 3 pitch variations, and those variations are again within very close boundaries. The distance between the sounds, the distance between the sounds are very simple. Can you see this writing board?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Is it of any advantage for you if I keep this writing board?
Yeah, yeah, sir. Why
Yes,
not?
we
All right.
can
It is another
get it.
linkage.
Yeah, beautiful. This is what precisely I want. Like what Naveen said now. We have to start seeing things, entities, and phenomena through the framework of wiring.
This is
Because, as I told you, violin is the universal truth.
Yes.
Please do not underestimate me. I have identified over my years of living with the nature process, maybe. I have understood the fundamental linkage, the invisible core of everything in this universe. I can even talk about the possible, probable origin of the universe. I have at least three different ideas on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you compel yourself through the framework. You drive your engines of attention and reflection and thinking and conceptualization and the projection and the imagination using that what you call tool, using that lathe of this framework. Anything can be understood, anything. Ultimately, you can even achieve your so-called self-realization, because that self, that I in you is an invariant possession. That invariant is guiding its expressions through various manifestations of the you. Every movement of your body, every movement of your mind, every movement of your intellect, every movement of your intelligence, and every state of your spirit, they're all sort of regulated by that I, that invariantness of the you. That invariant thing which leaves the body at the last moment of so-called clinical death. It is not that at the time of death all the systems are collapsed and all that. No. When just one aspect leaves the body, it is death. That
Mm-hmm.
is called a death, moment of death, like the moment of truth, the inspiration, the high experience, the triggering point of death. So that invariant, even when you want to locate that invariant, I am telling you this will be of immense help. And you can understand anything. So that's all so-called sales talk, which I don't know how to do. Now, at least take it as an exercise in applying your projection and interaction. That's all. Okay. Is there a logic in these lines?
Yes, it's going up and down. Yes.
Up and down.
I mean,
Which this part is down, right?
movement. Movement.
The, that is about the forming of this lines, Nitya. I asked whether there is a logic in this diagram that you see.
Uh,
I thought you were talking this. This indicates a kind of a downness because of the line here.
mm,
Whereas this indicates that all these lines may be perhaps originating from here. Okay. So that logic of linkaging, depending upon the logic of linkaging, is the beauty of music.
mm.
Depending upon the logic of linkage is the beauty of everything. For what you call, Aniratha talked about the design of a mobile phone. Oh, I wonder how many individuals must have reflected and projected and meditated for years together to come out with the final design logic. The logic is a fundamental of the universe, for like a gravitational force. Let them talk any laws, whatever it is, but that is a part of the logic. Like the very logic of the body, you cannot extend your legs without sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You cannot talk. You can talk only within a certain range of speed. You can talk within a certain range of speed. Kanda. See,
Mm-hmm.
similarly,
Yes.
you talk
Mm-hmm.
in slow speed. Try to talk in very slow speed. Beyond a point, you just cannot reduce the speed.
Mm-hmm.
It's
See,
very hard.
so that is the logic. In normal talking, the variations of sound structures are within very close. The range is very narrow. This is the range. Whereas in song, It could go like this and this and this and this. Therefore, the but in a certain logic, like if I say Kathiripu Kathiripu Kanmani, Kathiripu Kanmani, Kathiripu Kanmani. See, Kathiripu Kanmani. See,
Mhm.
the arrangement,
That.
the setting
Yes.
of Kathiripu. See,
Mm.
Kathiripu Kanmani. See,
Sir, at the moment, that logic is clear because we are seeing the song and you're drawing at the same time. If we see that line without the song,
oh, you are going to a different level. We will come to that later. Now, I want to say why it is a logic. For example, I don't know how I can vary it. Katiripu kanmani. See,
Mhm, it just falls, just dies.
yeah. Katiripu kanmani. See,
Mhm.
the logic
Yes.
is uh, uh, there is actually no logic of the music. And every
Mhm.
raga, you might have heard about so many, there are more than 234 Hindustani ragas and equal number of so-called Carnatic raga. What is a raga? You have always seen certain raga is created by Tyagaraja Swamigal, certain raga by Muthuswami Dishidhar, etc. etc.
Mhm.
What they have done is, only they had that originality to take, let's say, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa.
Yes.
They take a half note. These are all full notes. So till here it is sa. From here the re begins. So in between are called half notes. Okay, which half note with which half note of which swara is combined in which structure that they have created. That's all. And apparently, as of now, it is told that almost all possible permutation combinations of the logic of linkaging these swaras are already over.
Mm.
Mhm.
That means no new ragas have been identified. You try any connection as of now, you can see a lot of so-called film music directors, etc. They are all doing different connections only. Available raga connections.
Yes.
They are not able to create a new raga connection. I'm just talking about why then in a certain raga of certain structure, it can be mentioned why I am putting like this, why I am not putting like this. Let us say 3 plus 1 sara. Sa re ga tha. So why I am doing like this, not like this? Can you say?
It needs to be connected, it needs to be linkaged from one to another.
Oh, I see. This is not linkage.
Sir, can you repeat the question again?
Why?
This is sound sa re ga pa tha. So this compresses certain raga. In which case why I am showing sa re ga dha. Why I am showing sa re ga pa tha. Why I do like this? What is the difference between this and this? What is the difference you see between these two?
One is happening in a different time. The other
Yeah,
one,
exactly. Don't talk like that, Vinny. Sorry, Nitya. Sound can be generated only in time. Right now, when
yes.
you're sitting there, time is ticking away. Do you realize that? Look at the clock. Do you understand? We are sitting in the universal passing second. Let us say we are moving towards our end. Let us say so. 5 minutes which I spend on this cannot be redeemed back. So even if I say for a joke, Saragama Padanisa, it happened in the real live time just now. So it can be Saragama Padanisa. It can happen only in a time scale. So that time is an invariant thing operating where? Can you say? Where is time operates as an invariant? Time is everywhere. Everywhere. So any doing, whether it is the internal doing of thinking about something, internal ongoing doing of the flow of stream of consciousness, or active projection or active clear linkage with the time flow. So now for violin, now now we are giving some sub aspects, like first we mentioned what? First we mentioned the logic, okay? Second aspect, the
Right.
time. That means when you say about time factor, okay, about music, I just incidentally showed something. Okay, we said what you call the legs of the certain four pieces of wood linkaging with a plank in a certain by a certain logic or gives the intentionality of a table. You must learn to talk like this, of course, not to other people. I actually expected immediate translation of new concepts gathered in this, because this is not a classroom. Therefore, I am not instantly pointing out defects and asking you questioning back and all that. I don't intend to do that, except in rare situations where I'm sort of unknowingly forced to. Because I actually anticipate only about 33% of whatever we discussed thus far and whatever we will discuss in the future together, to be retained in your actual active logic of variant invariant structure of your understanding from this program. There are three
Okay.
invariants for this program: creative language control, creative analytic intellect, and freedom of the mind. These are the three invariant spokes of the wheel of this program, which we have told many times. But those three have a tremendous number of variants and varied networks and intentionalities of subvariants involved, through which I am taking you.
Yes.
You have to be linked with me in time. So, what do you mean by engaging with me in time? Okay, I was about to say that, then only I remembered. Okay, uh, yeah, a wooden plank, okay, under which four legs are fixed, okay, by a certain logic. So we talked about the logic. Okay, there's a logic. It is not that a wooden plank is like this: one leg here, one leg here, one leg here, and then another leg here. It was all the four legs are fixed very properly, very beautifully, very neatly. But the intentionality of the whole, see, vis-a-vis the
It's
principle,
on the
purpose.
it's
The
on the
principles
surface.
of the logic of fixing the legs onto the plank was vis-a-vis the envisaged purpose of being used as a platform to keep something on it. So these linkages are by a certain logic, definitely. Like as I told you, Katiripu Karmani. No, not possible. It is linkage. But there is no logic of the basic swara structure with which it started. காத்திரிப்பு கண்மணி. Because according to the melody, melody meaning the way of the flow, the way of the flow is called a melody. Kathiripu kanmani, that also is possible. There's a logic. But the melody is very normal. Kathiripu kanmani. See, there is a mysterious logic in the mind, the so-called central nervous system process of every human being when not every, there is a normal distribution variation. Somebody may say only Katiri Pogan Mani is enjoyable and Katiri Pogan Mani is not at all enjoyable. Somebody may say so. But those who have linkages with the variants of music, or at least a rudimentary feeling of the invariant of music, will say the second one is having a certain logic in the way of the pitch variation. What is that logic? Okay, so now logic is over. Now, in case of our dialoguing, in case of every ongoing process, in fact, in the nature, everything is ongoing only. There is nothing frozen stationary condition. Nothing. Everything is in flow. Like Vinay said the other day. Everything, even a subatomic particle is in flow. In some movement. Flow does not mean that in distance, spatial flow. Some movement. Particle to wave. Wave back to particle. Particle to wave. Wave back to particle. It is going on. Every cell is in every cell. There are trillion cells that comprise the structure of the body, human body. Every cell is in a process. Every cell of the body. Every cell of the body is in a live process. Every neurons. Every what is a gland? The structure of several cells. Okay, that gland in totality also is in movement, like the heart, the lungs, the intestinal canal, the eyes, the retina, your millions of nerve fibers that connect with your retina, which impulses are being delivered to and fro to the visual cortex. Everywhere there's a process going on. We will come to process perspective a little later. And that process happens in time. Right now, what you saw, this line drawing, is gone at a few milliseconds back. It cannot come back. Okay, that means this linkaging, you're linkaging with, you're seeing of my drawing of this arrow happens just now. Okay, over. That means that linkage existed only at that time of every ongoing process. Okay, now in that case, what is the linkage of this so-called wooden piece with the plank of this table, of matter, of this material? What is the difference? Come on.
Sir, the question once again.
Yeah, all right. This wooden table, okay? Okay. Four legs are placed. Okay. Definitely, these pieces of wood are linkaged to this plank by screw, and therefore this table. No doubt. This too is a variant, subvariant. This is plank, wood plank is a subvariant. Each one of these legs subvariant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of a simple plain table. Okay. They have been linkaged by a clear principle or logic. We talked about logic, logic. of linkaging?
All are necessary. If one is broken, the table itself is broken.
No, no. Answer to the question. That only I know you can say no. I know your level already you have covered. Now I want responses from a next orbit. This training program is also in different orbits. It started with certain relative simple reading of the parables, then highly strong creative analysis of the same parables. Then you went on to interpreting samasyas. Then you proceeded to several orbits have been covered already. Now you are in this orbit. Now your response should be from this linkage, not from this linkage. I am
The,
clarifying the ideas uh, for Vinay's question, or the question I asked. He wanted a revision of the question or restatement of the question. So these wooden pieces are linked with this plank, no doubt. Okay. Now, now I am right now drawing a kind of an arrow. Let us say so. You saw that.
hmm,
Now you cannot re-see that. It is over. This particular arrow, which I drew just a few seconds back, this you cannot re-engage with.
yeah.
Or when I say Katiripu Kanmani, you heard it. Finished. Linkage is
Hmm.
over. So, what is the difference between that linkage of seeing this being drawn or hearing what I uttered and the linkages of this material? That is the question, Vinay.
This is related to linkage of time only.
No, that is okay. Now you have to explain that.
Yeah, the arrow is now as a sketch there only, and before that we have seen the manifestation of that in the manifesting sorry, processing of that sketch,
Okay. Therefore,
and all these two had happened on two different times.
uh,
That's the only difference what I
uh,
can see.
you said, but not very clearly. One, you're talking about your linkaging with the um, with your seeing of, see, you have to talk very clearly. I'm talking with the real
Yeah.
referent.
Mm-hmm.
You have been, you some seconds back were able to linkage with your seeing of what I am drawing on this. Okay,
Right, sir. I was seeing that.
that is over. That was happened in that time. You said, all right, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
What about the, in other words, that linkages existed in that time only? Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
And keep this in mind. What? That linkage of your seeing that particular arrow being visible to you, which is because I draw it here, okay,
Mm-hmm.
existed at that point of time only and only and only 100% clear.
Yeah. Yes.
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 Okay, remember this 100% clarity. We may recur it some later point of time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all right, Naveen, then what is the way of linkaging? This is also linkaging. What is also this table? That wooden plank and the four leg pieces. They are also linkage. Do you say that that linkages that is there, not that you see that, if you examine it, you can see that. That linkages that are obviously visible there right now.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you're sitting on a simple table, near a table,
Mm-hmm.
what is the difference between that, or what is the principle of linkages operated there? There really the answer is. What are the principles of linkages happening in an ongoing doing? I don't know whether I made it clear. Once again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yes.
The principle behind this setting
Uh.
is to provide stability and strength to the table.
Okay. That is to provide the intentionality of a table.
Yeah, yes, got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
It stability, strength, and all second aspects, Naveen.
yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's say you made a table for just today. 2, 3 times you pick it here and there. It is useless. Okay.
Right, sir.
So forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
The intentionalities are different. That's what I wanted to know, to tell me. I told you everything in the world is a variant. Every variant has its intentionality. Because of that intentionality, it may assume an intent. That's a very rare case. That's a very different level. Or that
Mm-hmm.
intentionality may be utilized by the intent of a human being who is operating with that. Is
Yeah,
that clear, Vinay?
clear, clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Your pencil has an intentionality.
Mm.
Very unlikely that the pencil will also have the intent.
No.
Okay. But the human being carries the intent, and that therefore that human being picks up a pencil and utilizes the intentionality of that pencil. That intentionality of that pencil happened because of the logic of linkaging of the various components of that pencil. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
when I tell you, or when I sing a song, the intentionality is only to provide you some sensation during that process.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because a
Got it.
process is an ongoing thing, it has a beginning and an end.
Mm.
Whereas a material design, of course, that too has a beginning and an end, but it is not
Yeah.
in a movement process. The
Yes.
intentionality of the table is to remain like that.
Oops.
Mm.
Of course,
Yes.
now in between said strength, etc., etc. A child makes a little table like in his playground, okay? And the
Yes,
child
sir.
himself will give
Mm-hmm.
a kick and the entire table will be thrown away.
Right.
Okay.
Mm.
Because the intentionality of that play table was only for that.
Exactly.
And the intent of its maker was also like that only.
Mm.
So that
Right.
time difference in in the linkaging of uh,
Sorry.
doing or an ongoing process and a stationary material. You got some idea about how the logic that everything is a variant, every variant has an intentionality. By that intentionality, it connects with other variants. Uh, because of that intentionality, there is a logic.
Mm.
Yes, sir. Clear.
Sir,
Yes.
so then if I make a statement that uh, the linkage between table and its legs are permanent, is that correct? Depending on
No,
the
why not? Why not? Of course, they are sort of invariant. That I
sort of.
told you. You can take any object, any condition as invariant for your purpose of explanation also. Which I told when I was talking in a previous session with an example of redesigning, let us say, a bike. You can keep the hub as invariant. and then you go on varying the spokes. Or you keep the entire axle, entire handle as an invariant, and you just vary the design of the handle. Or you just keep the design of the handle, available design invariant, and make slight variation in the curve of that, and so on and so forth. That is what a musical variation also. Do not please think that a music director arrived at the tune of a lyric as soon as he saw that. Okay, Ilayaraja claims that. Of course, that is possible because Ilayaraja has that kind of a flow of musical variation, and he reads a lyric from the angle of that variation. That is why.
Mm-hmm.
We can all do that, no doubt about that. But Ilayaraja's doing that is of a very high musical flow. The melody is very different. That's all. So that music, even then, he had to try 2, 3 times, then set the instruments. He has to choose the instruments according to the intentionality of the logic of linkaging according to Ilayaraja's musical perception, Nitya.
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether you know. In fact, none of the A.R. Rahman songs would last for more than 3 years. But Ilayaraja songs will last so long as music listeners are there.
Mm-hmm.
Because the principles of linkages he uses in a given melody or a tune have a higher order. That's all we can say. He chooses certain instruments. The basic mistake I would say between of A.R. Rahman is he has no control on what exact instruments to be set in the table of a song. He
Mm-hmm.
just picks up here and there. He has, of course, all the musical sensitivity, but he does not have that level of originality to try out a unique configuration of instruments to form the BGM, background music. So the principle of linkaging. So I want you now. Uh, is the question clear, Vinay? So you have given some kind of an answer. One is material object, which is stationary there. That linkage between the legs and the plank is more or less held in wherein because it's a matter. Therefore, it can be held invariant. Whereas I tell a dialogue, oh, you are an idiot. That happened at time when that statement is actually over. Remember, sometime back I told you to keep certain things 100% clear in your mind. That your seeing of my drawing that arrow happened at that time only. At that time only, that was linked with your sense of perception. Like the linkages of the table exist even now, that
Mm-hmm.
does not exist right now. In which case, for example, for you to linkage it further, that's also your logic, like Naveen linkages. To what extent you will linkage your learning and understanding uh, to be reflected in your expressions, in your responses, in your languages, in your actions, and so on and so forth. That's a different question. So that's a different question. Coming back to the previous point, a
Mm-hmm.
dialogue made to you by somebody 20 days back, or 2 days back, or 2 hours back. So how that dialogue is having linkages even now with your mind.
Because of the memory and emotions it created.
Okay, agreed. Beautiful. Because entering into your system, it created a table, TABLE table of logic of reinforced set of ideas, some textbook lesson kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, agreed. Agreed. Beautiful, Vinay. But now I am bringing in the question. What is the difference between that logic of that memory table and the real logic of the time uh, when I talked that dialogue to you? Is the question clear?
No, sir.
No, sir.
When I tell or when I talk to somebody that you are a bloody idiot, okay, that happened in that time. That table was a transient table of statements with a certain logic made at that time.
Right.
That time is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And as Vinay said, that that transient table entered into your perception system, and you created your own table
Mm.
of that fellow made that statement to me at that point of time. He should not have told me. Many linkages you may create and establish a table of that memory inside you. Now my
Mm.
question: what is the difference between the two tables?
The first
Simple
one is
only.
in, yeah,
Yeah,
the first, the first table represents the invariant,
yeah.
and the carrying on are the variants of that table or dialogue.
That's a very beautiful answer. One was for that point of time it was happening, therefore it was almost like an invariant. Now only variant copies are available.
Right. Yeah.
Then how come variant copies develop such a significant continuity of emotions? See, why? No, why? What is working there? Again, I cannot wait for again the time and the
Yeah.
logic of the internal machine is working.
Yes, the reinforcements.
I would say umpteen number of reflections of the table are reproduced in the time, ongoing mental
Mm-hmm.
process.
Yes.
Now there is not one table.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you reflected, recollected that many tables were duplicated, and the rooms of the mind is filled with the tables. So quickly making another linkage to another orbit. What is the table of your own self-image? Look at the linkages. Look at
Yeah.
the multi-dimensional, n-dimensional complexity of linkages of yourself. Oh my God, there will be millions of lines going on. Millions of lines with varied variants and varied orbits of linkages. And at any point of time, this could be perhaps existing in about 3 dimension. One, you take it as much more real, or so-called positive. One aspect you take it as negative, and remaining things are all neutral. Your self-image contains in general. One is so-called positive, the other is so-called negative or depressing and dysfunctional and doubt-inducing and things like that, various trapping thinking, and remaining all kind of uncertain, neutral. Many informations about whatever, and they are all existing where in what form. What is the variant invariant structure, or what is the logic of the linkages of that? What is the logic of reproducing those tables inside your mind? Because other people keep it, of course.
Yes.
If you have so-called conflict was there, and the other person said something, and you said something, and if you are able to transcend or get rid of duplications of that, The other person may be keeping duplicate copies inside and responding to you in a certain way. Let it be.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be removed. That's why you have to take a choice that you should not be remote controlled by the rudimentary continuity of the tables inside that person.
Yes.
And if that person is nevertheless continuing it, how will you interfere? How will you break it? How will you break the continuity of that photocopying of that table? Can you?
Very hard.
Yeah. Number one, you have to choose a certain time. Number two, ultimate challenge. What is that ultimate challenge? The logic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, when there are different logic, there are different variants also.
Sir,
Yeah.
are we talking about the table in my mind or the other person's?
Right now, the last statement was about the table in your
Other.
mind. Genius in self mind.
Mm.
What I said is, even if you do not create a table, and on that point of time, you will have a table formed because we are sensitive individuals. But that's all.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you I draw this arrow. You saw that, and that is over.
Mm-hmm.
And normal mindsets will create hundreds of duplicates of the table going on, depending upon the emotional load, depending upon the person, depending upon the context, depending upon the background, depending upon a number of things which only that person knows. Okay, Vinay. So we are talking about your mind. At that moment of interaction at the time 23, yesterday it happened. Now that's all, finished. No more reproduction.
Yes.
Now if the other person continues to carry reproductions of the table, then what to do? Of course, there are no rules about it. Once you become a mystic, once you understand many linkages of varied variants and their intentionalities and the processes involved, you become you achieve a certain intent where like Veena Ganesh is curing the patients, you will just deal with that person. You have to guide that person depending upon the requirements, of course, strategically.
Mm-hmm.
Now we will, for the time being, consider one more example. Anything is an example. Anything you take anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Every subatomic particle in this world is uh, is existing in a variant, invariant intentionality, linkage, orbit network. Anything, even what I am doing to you now. Now this figure is perceived by you.
Mm-hmm.
Certain variants are formed inside you. Maybe certain ideas, certain clues, certain insights, and those clues may develop some linkages that it will give you some understanding, etc.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, consider one more huge, one of the, let us say, the ultimate variant, invariant intentionality, logic, orbit, network that is controlling every human being in the world. What is that?